In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at 3 different examples of Roger Federer breaking what you hear from coaches on your local courts and from players on your local courts and going against several different myths. Let's take a look at the service motion that we're going to be taking a look at today. And thank you very much to LPT TV. Definitely check out that YouTube channel. Thank you for supplying this slow motion footage of Federer practicing his serve. He's hitting a spin serve out wide here. And this is the example we're going to be taking a look at. And the first thing I want you to notice, as he extends his arm up and begins his tossing motion, look at the shadow here of his arm and of his body moving into the court. Look at the direction his arm is moving and how his shadow is parallel to the baseline. He's extending his arm out along the baseline to initiate his toss. And as he goes up to release the ball, you'll see that his arm continues moving in that direction. And this goes completely against what you hear from a lot of coaches who are asking you to toss out into the courts and toss out in front of themselves because they want you to get your momentum moving forwards. And that's a good thing. That's something you should be trying to do on all your serves. But if you look at Federer, he's releasing the ball along the baseline and he's still transferring forwards. He's still landing well inside the baseline and taking a full stride into the court after his serve. So he's able to achieve the right contact point to transition his body weight forwards without putting his arm completely into the court. And if you look at some of the best servers of all time, Federer obviously being one of them, Sampras being another example, you'll see frequently that the arm is moving along the baseline instead of into the court. Now, there are some examples such as Serena Williams where she does extend her arm more into the court. And so the bottom line here is you can use either method as long as you're comfortable and your toss can be repeatable and reliable and consistent and precise. If you can achieve those things, it doesn't matter whether or not your arm actually goes right underneath where you're trying to toss the ball. So that's myth number 1 that you probably have heard before. And let me know if you've heard anything like that in the comments down below. And let's go ahead and move on to our next element that we're going to take a look at. And this has been a pet peeve of mine for many years and is something that has bugged me a lot. And it's still being talked about by people publishing videos online. And that has to do with where in the toss you make contact with the ball. And so what I'm going to do here is draw a line right at the peak of the toss, right up here above Stadium 1 in the background. And if we continue with the video and we wait for the ball to drop, Federer is just going into his racket drop here. His body is starting to rotate upwards, throwing the racket up towards the point of contact, up on edge at first, and then turning and pronating to find the strings with the ball. There's contact. If we draw another line here and we compare those 2 lines, you could easily fit a whole tennis racket between those 2 lines, which is over 2 feet. And yet you continue to hear coaches talking about hitting the ball either on the way up or at the peak of the toss. And I would challenge you watching this, anybody, to find any single example of any professional player that hits the ball at the actual top of their toss. Even players that have a pretty fast rhythm, like Nick Kyrgios and also Ivo Karlovic, both have very quick rhythms. The ball is dropping a couple inches at least before they make contact. So what's the point here? The point is you should be finding a rhythm and a timing of your service motion that's smooth, that's flowing, that's effortless, that doesn't have any jagged starts or stops in it, doesn't have any hitches. That's what you should be trying to achieve with your toss height. If you try to hit the ball too low, you won't be able to extend and be able to make contact in a nice, strong, athletic position. And if you toss too high, then you'll end up just waiting for the ball and it kills your flow of energy and it kills your momentum. And so Federer right here, you can clearly see, and this is just a standard delivery for him, that his ball is falling several feet before he makes contact. And that's pretty typical. That's pretty standard among professional players. Again, if you think you have an example of any professional player hitting the ball at the top before it comes down, do me a favor and comment down below and let me know. And I'll be happy to take a look at it. All right, the last thing that we're going to look at is something else that people have been pointing out in my videos. I've published over 1,000 clips of professional players on my YouTube channel here at Essential Tennis. And it seems like everybody is obsessed with whether or not professional players foot fault. And this video here is an example of the best player in the world stepping forwards using a stance that he doesn't normally use. Normally he starts wide and he stays wide throughout his motion. And here you see Roger actually stepping forwards with his front foot across the baseline way before he even gets into his full trophy pose and much less makes contact. So this is an aggressive foot fault and not what he would normally do during practice. And so what I have to say about that is probably maybe something a little bit off the beaten path that you probably haven't heard before. And that is, I think it's important once in a while to just relax and have fun and enjoy yourself and just have a good time hitting the ball. And that's what Federer does during most of his tournament warm-up sessions. This is him just going out there, getting a hit, breaking a little bit of a sweat. He probably has a match an hour or two later in the day. So he's getting his rhythm, getting his timing. I've watched a lot of these practice sessions. He doesn't take himself super seriously. He's not super focused, not super intense. Yeah, sure, of course he hits some great shots, but he's not out there pushing himself and training and trying to do everything perfect. And once in a while, I think that's a good thing for those of you watching who are super passionate about improving. It's good to be focused. It's good to work hard. But I think one of the reasons why Federer has such incredible longevity is that he knows how to pace himself and he knows how to avoid burning himself out. And I've seen a lot of amateur athletes push themselves session after session after session after session, and they don't give themselves any leniency to make any mistakes, like a foot fault or like anything else, and they end up just kind of taking the fun out of it. So that's my last kind of quick message here today. Let me know down below, which of those three things do you really identify with the most, which was most helpful. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next lesson.